Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts Amanda and Christian as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from The Mandalorian, Season 3, Chapter 24, The Return. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. But before we get started, I think we all know what this episode is really about. When we call it The Return, when you see the title of this Duel of the Ranks episode, the most important return is my voice.
Oh, I bet you're gonna say me to the States.
Yeah, I mean, first off, we're very, very thankful you made it home safely.
But yes, the return of your voice.
Last week, our poor listeners, we haven't even put out the audio episode yet because Christian and I are still traveling Europe, and it was bad.
Amanda just got back.
So yeah, that was a jaunt. So glad you're back home safe, Amanda.
Yeah, me too.
We've got the beautiful, if you're not watching the video side, we've got the beautiful Scottish, actually it's Loch Lomond right behind us here in Scotland. We watched the episode last night in Italy, in Rome. Now we're talking about it in Scotland.
Bouncing around.
A
lot of conflicting thoughts about this episode.
Lots of conflicting thoughts.
Lots of things happened this episode.
What's your summary, Amanda?
Oh, let's get into it. In the Season 3 finale, the Mandalorians, led by Bo-Katan, are retreating from Moff Gideon's hidden headquarters on Mandalore while being hunted by Beskar-armored Dark Troopers. Axe Woves flies off from the group to warn the Mandalorian cruiser overhead to abandon ship and bring help to the ground. After being captured, Din, with the help of IG-12 Grogu, fight their way through more Dark Troopers as they aim to take out Moff Gideon once and for all. Din and Grogu destroy the clones of Gideon and face the Praetorian Guards down while Bo-Katan, the Armorer, and their Mandalore fleet battle the Dark Troopers in an epic air battle. While Din helps Grogu defeat the guards, Bo-Katan takes on Gideon, and in the process, the dark saber is destroyed. Axe Woves successfully gets the Mandalorians off the cruiser and directs the crashing ship towards Gideon's base, officially destroying it. Grogu uses the power of the Force to shield Bo and Din from the blast and officially bringing the season to a happy ending.
That ending, by the way, with that little, what was it, where that mask they used to just close it out, that little, like, that was the closest thing we're going to get to Star Wars as an 80s sitcom.
Yeah.
That's exactly how that went.
No, when we kind of like, so then there was an epilogue at the end that I left out of my summary, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot. But the one part that really felt like obviously corny to me was when we go down into the waters of the secret waters of Mandalore, and it felt like Titanic, like at the end when you're like following the necklace down to the bottom of the ocean. And then you see the mythosaur, and it's like, why didn't we see the mythosaur in real life?
Yeah.
What's he doing down there sleeping with all this ruckus happening above?
I heard someone say because Grogu has like a connection with the mythosaur, that they're saying that was a sign that Grogu is going to be the new, Tar Vizsla. And proof he's going to lead Mandalore. He has a connection already with the mythosaur. So
he is a Jedi Knight, as we have established.
Yeah, he is a Jedi Knight.
And he is officially adopted by Din Djarin, who we now learned Djarin is his first name and Din is his family name. So now Grogu's name is Sir Din Grogu.
Din Grogu.
I think Din Grogu sounds better than just Grogu. So it's got a good ring to it.
But I'm still gonna call Din Djarin Din.
Yeah.
I can't rewire that in my brain at this point.
Djarin. It's just jarring to call him anything other than.
People still call him Mando, you know?
Yeah.
But regardless of names, there were a lot of things going on that this episode, while it was fun, it was fun to watch, and there was a lot going on to be entertained by. It did feel like we were rushing to try to close all the loops, and I think,
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't speak for you two, but I was kind of hoping for more of a cliffhanger, more of a like, let's do some cool things in this episode, but set up for the future stuff. I really wasn't thinking they were going to try to tie in season 1 and season 2 as well by like closing all these loops. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it felt rushed. A lot of it felt, I mean, it didn't, I don't want to say half baked, but it certainly didn't feel good by any means. There was a lot of examples where the TIE fighters, for example, like they're going up and they're shooting at the ship, whatever, that Imperial cruiser. And then we see later, by the way, there's like I don't know if that's a bee above us. We're recording.
There's a drone.
Oh, we're recording this outside. Like someone's got great 4K footage of us as we're using our webcam to make this episode happen. Anyway, yeah, back to the episode. I guess we'll see someone else's view of Duel of the Rings later behind the scenes. But no, like I said, a lot of it just didn't feel that great. Like, why did the Mandalorian ships, like they went down to Mandalore to support Din and Bo-Katan, yet we didn't actually see any of those ships in action? It seemed like they were setting up some sort of like dogfight with those TIE interceptors. And then what? Like the interceptors shot down that Imperial cruiser, and then they just all were like, "All right, we're gonna
Peace.
bounce."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Next base.
and it just felt like, yeah, like they were so focused on looping up so much so fast. And I know we're gonna talk a lot more about Moff Gideon, and Christian and I know we're talking about his untimely death here, but it just felt like we've got something else we're really excited about with Ahsoka and other things. Let's just close up all of these other stories, and so we can actually move on to the new stuff.
So since you brought up like that specific moment of Axe Woves and like the cruiser up there, my thoughts on that part, like once Axe Woves was like, I'm gonna go alert the others, I was like, here he is, he's gonna do the spy thing, he's gonna betray someone, or watch out, Axe
Yep.
Woves.
They definitely
And then
filmed
it turns out, no, Axe Woves is actually just a really good guy.
Yeah.
And the thing I took most issue with is how he was able to just break through the entire atmosphere with his
Yeah.
jetpack.
Yeah.
In earlier episodes, we discussed that, like, yeah, they do run out of fuel. And to me, that feels like a distance in which you would run out of fuel. Otherwise, why aren't they just like traveling the galaxy like that?
Yeah, we mentioned that while we were watching all these action sequences, because they were on their jetpacks for most of the episode. And it's like they must have just had a lot more fuel jam packed in those in those cartridges. But I loved the like aerial, the dog fights or whatnot. Like I didn't. We're living in a Star Wars era where we get to see freaking Mandalorians and other jetpack troopers all colliding midair, and we're having an aerial battle, and it was pretty dang sweet to see the armor.
It was cool.
Oh, the armor was
the
so
armor
cool.
just around. Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
a highlight for me for this episode. That was just pretty cool.
I just heard Led Zeppelin when she came flying through. I just I come from the land of the ice and snow.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. And even like
that's her.
Bo-Katan, like as they're all flying, like
Oh yeah,
holding the dark saber, I was like, wow, this is delivering.
yeah.
It kind of hurt my heart to see the dark saber get crushed like that, though.
I know Jake and I like looked at each other like in sync, and we were like, is it supposed to do that? Like, you can do that, that breaks the rules.
Yeah.
But I love it as a plot device and a storytelling device. Like, I think really the curse of Mandalore was actually part of the dark saber. I think that was so much of, oh, see, if you have this, then you're the leader, but not necessarily being a good warrior or like duelist is not the same thing as being a great leader. And they put too much emphasis on who controls people based on this one object. So I think
Yeah.
that is the perfect like ending of the dark saber and the new path of the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And Din already set up before. He's like, I didn't even know about this thing until like you started telling me about it. So it's just a sword to me. Something else I want to bring up too before I forget. Someone else mentioned this, and I thought more about it. Moff Gideon, like last episode. I mean, they've set him up that yeah, he's pretty cool, sure, but really he's just like the ultimate like Star Wars fan, right? He works for the Empire.
A
He
poser,
wears
if you will.
yeah, he wears Mandalorian armor. He's cloning. He calls every single item by its actual name. Like
What do you mean by that?
he has I have the dark saber.
Mm.
He can't say Bo-Katan Kryze. Like
Yeah.
he's every detail he lists. Like he's so excited about it. But he can't just be like an Imperial who wants to be a Mandalorian, but he also has to be a Jedi too, with some form of a lightsaber being the dark saber. It's like, all right. Like
Quite ambitious.
yeah.
Quite ambitious.
He's just a big
What
Star
else
Wars
hasn't
fan.
he conquered yet? Like
He's
what
just a Star
can he
Wars
still
fan.
add on? I think he needs to add on the robotic arms that like Grievous has.
Mm.
So then like he's just keeps leveling up to this like
Yes.
hodgepodge like
Star Wars.
And
yeah.
he's collecting lightsabers and his
Speak like Yoda.
cape slots.
Yeah.
No, that was the thing I was most disappointed in. Like the previous episode, they built up Moff Gideon. I don't know. I regarded him as like a way higher caliber villain after the previous episode. We were just giving him more credit for what he had set up and organized. And it turns out, yeah, cloning was still very important to him. And they really, I thought, slungshot him into a great character villain spot in Star Wars. And then this episode, they just killed him. And I thought it was quite anticlimactic having killed him in that episode. And I don't know. I think that was too valuable of a character to just kill off so easily in an anticlimactic way. Granted, he was fighting, the three of them, like Bo, Din Grogu, and like it made sense that it would take all of them to beat him, but at the same time, something about it was just anticlimactic.
Oh yeah.
Just him incinerating like that. I was like, oh, he's gone now.
It's the antithesis of that Luke hallway scene last season.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So a couple thoughts there. First of all, we talk about in the last episode when he's meeting with the Shadow Council,
Mm-hmm.
how he's like, I don't care about cloning. That was your thing. And then we find out he has this whole like cloning section of himself. It's like,
Oh yeah,
dude, you really are just stealing everybody's ideas. And he's just a bully. He's making like fun of and belittling all the other people who have good ideas that he likes, but he won't give them credit for it.
Oh yeah, that's classic villain.
Yeah, and I wish this was my original thought, but I did see this on Twitter. Someone pointing out that in previous seasons, Moff Gideon has had that nice little mustache, and this season, Moff Gideon didn't. So, did we actually just kill a clone of Moff Gideon, and the real Moff Gideon's still out there?
Ooh.
I'd be so done. I'm so done with that stuff. Oh my gosh. Let people die. Tex should be dead. Moff Gideon should be dead. It's so ridiculous. Oh, turns out I never died. Turns out. I hate that stuff so much.
But I mean, those clones that he had in that facility were like fully baked.
Yeah.
They were functioning.
Did they have mustaches? I don't remember.
No, they didn't.
So the clones don't have mustaches. Could be a thing, but I don't mind. I loved that the way that they set it up with Moff Gideon dying and ending on like this happy epilogue where Grogu gets adopted and he becomes, well, we actually go full circle to episode 1 when they were giving that child his like baptism or whatever you would call it. And he
Yep.
gets to finish his creed. And then Grogu gets to make his creed. And we're kind of set up for the next season, which is going to be Din and Grogu traveling the Outer Rim with kind of Carson Teva as their like fulcrum, giving them assignments. So I think everyone that complained about this season being so lore heavy is probably going to love season 4, because it sounds like that's going to very much so harken back to season 1, where it's a lot of side quests and maybe lower stakes, but a small through line of, Thrawn or the Sith incarnate,
Oh yeah.
In the background.
Yeah, this season was totally set up to set other things up.
Yeah. And I loved it though. Like I thought it worked the way that they wrote it and set it up. I love, oh my gosh, that they get their own little home together. And what was someone in the show was saying how, Mandalorians have lived in the dark for so long. They've always been afraid of the light. And to just see Din chilling with his feet up, watching his son play in the daylight, not be afraid, and using the Force, like that is wholesome as heck. And now I'm so excited for the next chapter of their adventures.
That's something, because it's like a nice, comfortable idea. Like it was nice seeing them together, but I was like, to me, it looked like wrapping up their tying all this in a bow so much to where I wasn't really interested in like their future side quests or whatnot. Because I think a big part of why we were scoring season 3 so high for me was it was on a grander level. Things were fast paced and we're just moving along and setting up, taking back Mandalore. And then they like really wrapped it all up in one episode, or like tried to just quickly patch it. And I wasn't like quite ready for something like that, because now it's like I'm not wanting to really go back to side quests anymore. I just like that grander scale of Star Wars. So that's kind of like why I put a story rank lower for this one. But it's still, like, to your point, I do like the things about this one, like the dark saber that you were mentioning. That I think that's just very important for Bo-Katan, to just eliminate that trinket, as you will, like Moff Gideon illustrating that. But the whole thing of, in technical aspects, I think I ranked the highest category. It was just, not that it was perfect, but it was ambitious, and you get this grand scale of battle in a TV series, doing it pretty well. I can appreciate when they do that for a single episode of a TV series. Like that's good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it seemed like there was a lot that was cut out of this. I'm sure it was a lot of action sequences. I don't know how much more it would have added to it. I think the decision to nix Moff Gideon, if that's what they did, which hopefully it'd be so much worse if he's still alive and they bring him back. But
it would make sense if it was a clone that they killed. You can't be mad about that. Clones have always been a part of Star Wars.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of
major
that,
plot point.
More and more from Marvel and Star Wars. It's just, all right, this is a cool character, bring him back, and I give Boba a pass. Just Boba. That everyone else stay dead, especially Tech. And I love Tech, but it takes away all the impact if he's not dead. So no, I think if a cool storyline could have been, because obviously you were bringing up like Moff Gideon bullying other people, and something I was thinking about is, sure, like he is a bully, he's not a nice guy, but also, is he even really Imperial anymore? He's definitely got his own agenda, and it seems he's just using Imperial resources, as they were talking about in the beginning. Send me more resources. I need more resources. I need more. Because he's got his own secret thing that once it gets going, He doesn't even need to be a part of the Imperial regime anymore. He's bigger and better than everyone else. And basically bow down, pay homage to my awesomeness. Otherwise, my team of force wielding Mando stormtroopers that are me are going to take you out. So, which also seemed kind of silly because, like, wouldn't one of them sooner or later, even if they're great clones, wouldn't one of them eventually be like, we're like that much more powerful than you?
Yeah,
Why are you in
exactly.
charge? I
I
mean,
think he cares too much about legacy though. At that point, he's like, so what if I die? My legacy lives on.
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's crazy. So,
So, Brody, I want to hear why you specifically hated this episode and gave it under a 50%.
that's rare for me. Yeah.
That's
No,
really rare.
I don't think it was a good story. It felt like from the beginning on, like it was very rushed. A lot felt like there were like a lot of details that were missing. Character direction I didn't really love. Uh, Tone was weird. Like you have when Moff Gideon dies, it's almost like we were talking last night that Darth Vader, like, no, arms out, gets
Yeah.
engulfed in flames, and then and then at the end you have that more comedic silhouette kind of end with that mask that just, the whatever that fade to black type moment, which
Hmm.
whatever, kind of more silly, but so tonally it was a bit weird. Technical aspects, there was definitely some lighting issues, and there's elements where things felt more plasticky on the tie interceptors that, I mean, look, it's a TV show. I get it doesn't have a movie budget, but just a few things where I'm like, again, I'm not technical aspects and music were the two areas I gave it the most props for because those are still really well done. Um, but then yeah, with the immersive universe, I guess the only things that you can really say about it was especially the stuff at the end with the numerous endings that they had, um, many of which were unnecessary. Like you didn't need him walking up to Carson Teva and making that a whole scene. You could just have him this next season bring in a bounty to Carson Teva, and everyone just gets like, oh, okay, that's the
They're
gist.
working together, yeah.
They're working
But then
together.
they had to get the IG brain, which honestly pissed me off because Grogu's wearing IG's body and then the Praetorian guards kill it. So, okay, IG's body is gone again. They find the replacement headpiece. So, did they like reassemble the Praetorian Guard destroyed one, or did they also find other IG-11 pieces? And then, how do you just like reprogram the brain to do what the one that doesn't exist anymore did? Why
Those
is
little
he back?
guys on those planets. What was the
The
what
Anzellans.
the Anzellans? That baby, little
But like,
squeezy.
but Quill was the one who officially programmed him to be a caretaker in the
Yeah,
beginning. And if that part of his machine is destroyed, how can they just like replicate it?
yeah, that's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
You
I
raised
I
great
was so
questions.
disappointed. I was like, why are we bringing him back? Just let him be a statue.
I'm not overall. Like I said, I just don't think it's a
Droids never
well.
die.
No one dies in Star Wars. No one's really done. Look, I just don't think it's a very well written episode. I'm not completely bashing it. There are fun moments, 49%, but it definitely felt like, oh, this is like the rise of Skywalker in this like format here where it's just a lot coming at you fast. We're trying to close up a bunch of stuff so we can move on to other bigger and better things. And I'm sorry, but like if I'm comparing this, like again, we're not comparing this whole Star Wars, we're comparing this to just cinema in general. Like when there's other TV shows like The Bear that just exist. This last episode doesn't get a pass. It was not that well written from my perspective. And if there's a lot of other things out there that could flesh it out, great, but no, for me it gets a little over a 49%. So
Rough.
Amanda, you also ranked the technical aspects and the immersive universe highest. And your score was
Yeah.
at 73.6%. You have a little more positive things to say, bringing up the cumulative score.
Yep. Usually I feel like Brody's been the one that's been like trying to jack up those point system, but I loved the battle in the air. That looked great. It felt great. It was really thrilling and exactly what we needed to see from a fight on Mandalore. Immersive universe, I love where the epilogue took us. I love the seeing the fresh gardens of Mandalore like start to sprout again.
Yeah.
That was super hopeful and beautiful. And even to this day, like Bo-Katan is still like unlearning things that she's been told that were lies the whole time, and is really seeing all of the possibility of this land that she gets to lead and flourish now. And yeah, it just made me really happy. I loved it.
Yeah, they did spin some positives on here. I wasn't like, I was kind of more so in the middle. I was happy to see the action and entertainment, but kind of sad that they really just quickly looped it all up. And they really did focus not on just tying season 3 together, but seasons 1 and 2 into this. And so that just makes it harder for me to get into season 4 to like start a whole new thing. But maybe I'm, thinking of the structure all wrong of the show. But I would say the main thing, was just getting back to Moff Gideon, elevating him to something like that in the previous episode, only just to kill him off, if that was truly him. It was just like, I could have seen more happening with it. But that brings our total score to a 63.3%.
Was there any good, just any good dialogue at all in that episode? I don't think I can pinpoint one moment.
There were some cheesy lines.
Yeah. I don't think there was any good dialogue I can think of off the top of my head from that episode.
I mean, it's not Andor.
Yeah, but this is season finale of The Mandalorian.
What it lacked in monologues, it made up for in action sequences. But my question to you guys is then, we sort of anticipate cameos and special appearances and like the big kind of moment that we specifically didn't get this finale. Do you think that affected your enjoyment of it?
Ooh, good question. Maybe, yeah, like I think with the pacing of how things were going with season 3, just leaving it was just kind of one-upping more and more grand things and leaving it to a mystery of cliffhangers. I think I've become accustomed to that, or I liked that, and then kind of just quickly resolving all of that. And like we were almost sure, all of us were thinking that we were going to see Din Djarin's face this episode, and we didn't. That was something that they again subverted our expectations. But it didn't bother me either way. I thought it was fine. But no, I think
he's a beautiful man. You wanted to see his face.
I did.
Yeah,
I wanted
we were all picturing. But I don't know. What about you, Brody?
I would look.
I know, Brody. I know you were rooting for Boba to show up, and
Yeah,
I know
I would be
that
lying.
if you would have given it 5s across the board.
Boba should have been that spy, man. He could have like done some damage, kill some Mandalorians, get out of there.
Ouch.
After our conversation last night, I am really beginning to lose hope that Boba will ever be written well ever again. Which, yeah, Christian brought up some great points last night that he honestly could have been its own episode. That was like more of a therapy session of like, Brody, Boba will never be what you hope he will be.
We had a lot of theory going on.
And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. He's never going to be the comic book Legends version of himself ever again, probably. Who knows? Maybe it will. We'll see. But
probably
anyway, yeah, if there was something cool in this episode tying into Ahsoka, that's what I was thinking we were going to get. I honestly, I was thinking we were gonna see Thrawn. Was where I thought this was gonna go. And so the no Thrawn appearance was interesting to me. I thought, well, they're setting up this whole Mandoverse that's gonna naturally lend itself to what they're doing there, but they had mention of him this last episode. They felt that was enough, and personally, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with playing your cards close to the chest because if you were at Celebration, if you watch the trailers online, you know something really big is coming with Ahsoka. And so I do like them saying, nope, we're going to set it apart because it warrants that. And so it's its own special thing and told in the confines of its own story, which I wish more of them would follow that format and be its own story and not need to do what they did within the Book of Boba Fett and stuff, where it's kind of a cross between that and Mandalorian season 2. So
now they did have me hanging on to the very end of the credits to make sure that there wasn't any post-credit scene. And I wanted a post-credit scene. That would have been great. Like, okay, yeah, don't throw any cameos and stuff in the episode, but give us just like a tiny look at like Thrawn like putting his hands like on the control panel, just like a little sliver of something.
Cyril eating cereal with his mom.
Yeah, just a quiet scene.
I would love that. I would love that.
Kind of like that warm-up post-credits for Marvel, but just crunch on some cereal.
You know how there's like those study with me like lo-fi YouTube videos? It's that, but it's Cyril just like eating cereal at the counter.
I would love that. I would have loved that. I really would have. Like, he's alive. He's still alive. Oh, well, okay.
I will say I was happy to see that the armorer was not the spy or like falling into those theories. Or at least
she's a baddie.
It was more, I don't know, solidified that she's still on the good.
I don't know if you saw, but anything with or if you've seen much at all of Emily Swallow, but she's very quickly just winning over the hearts of Star Wars fans. She
saw her at Celebration.
Yep. She was that was the first time I've ever seen her personality. She seems really cool. She was just at Fan Expo, I think in Dallas, and she went as the armorer and went to and cosplayed, and she was just hilarious, like going up to like Vader, and like she would point at other fans that were walking into the entrance and be like, this is the way. And it just cool. being corny for a day. And it was funny though, because at one point they're like, all right, take off your mask, and she took it off, and like no one knew who she was. And they're like, and like the guy in the mic's like, this is Emily Swallow. And like, oh,
and they're like, oh,
the real man, the armor from the Mandalorian. Like, oh, that's so cool. So yeah, but we'll all know who Emily Swallow is as time goes on, I feel like. So
maybe season 4 she'll get defeated and like her mask will come off or something, and we'll be like, Emily Swallow.
Yeah, I think that was the moment she's like, I need to renegotiate my contract.
Yeah.
No one knows who I am here. So, well, cool. Well, do we have any other thoughts before we move into the hot take segment? No? All right. Well, let's do it. Darth Vader, bring us in.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time. And Christian, you've got the first hot take of the night.
Hot take. I wanted to keep it specific to this episode, though. We were talking about some other things last night, but with Moff Gideon, I'm still hung up on this. I think killing him off was one of the worst decisions they could have made for the Mandalorian series as a whole. Shows need good villains, and just when he was getting really good, they killed him off. And as a fan, as a viewer, like closing all those loopholes, I just don't have as much of an interest in season 4 that I think I would have. Not saying I'm not interested in it, but I think to keep it concise, killing off Moff Gideon was a very bad idea.
I agree. I'm just making sure that would ruffle feathers.
It
I feel like it
ruined the
would.
show. You
It-
could say it ruined the show.
Did it ruin the show for you though?
Not 100%. No, I still love watching
But
the
it
show.
it hurt the show. Big
It's-
Well, we lost our professional mic, so
That's
we're
okay. I
back.
can still hear you.
So we're back with the MacBook microphone. We're down to our last legs with the tech here on this trip, but we're there.
Protecting our sanity.
We're attacking our sanity, but we're about done. We come home in a few days. Look, man, I'm gonna upvote that. I'm with you on that take. So you're getting a Roger from me.
For me, I think it is a hot take. I am trying to decide how I feel about it because I still think that if you would have allowed him to squeak away, then people would be like, oh, it's just going to be the Din, Grogu, and Moff Gideon show again. And they just rely on the same things over and over again. So I think I'm going to say it's a hot take, but I disagree with it for that reason.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'm glad I have a hot take where we have some disagreement.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll also say too, we should have brought this up in the beginning, but this is also a pre-recording, so we can't look at our listenership. But hey, thank you all for still joining and like listening to these. We see your comments the next day. Look, we're hours ahead, so we're doing our best here. But overall, since you get enough agreement here, you get A. I feel like it's been a minute since you've gotten a Roger.
I don't know. Christian's been sneaking up, getting some better hot takes recently. So,
All right. Well, Amanda, what's your take?
there's so many things. I think my hot take is going to pertain to our bingo cards, actually. So, kind of jumping ahead to usually when we discuss our bingo cards, my hot take is I think that Grogu said his first words in this episode. Throughout the season, we've heard him kind of babbling like a little baby. Specifically, I think of when he's in Bo's ship and Din says, "This is the way," and Bo says, "This is the way," and he goes, "Nyam, nyam, nyam, nyam." You know, like you're like, okay, I know what he's saying. This is the way.
Yeah.
And then, we get the IG 12 where he can say yes and no. So it shows that he is cognizant. He's able to understand and communicate.
Yep.
But it wasn't until I think the epilogue, maybe when they're back at that rebel base and they're looking at the IG-11 in there, where Grogu actually kind of mouths something really intentional, but it's not in basic. So I'm going to argue that counts as his first words. Like he is absolutely saying something, even though we can't understand it.
That's a very...
And I've had a lot of fans, a lot of people who are playing bingo come up to me and be like, has he said his first word yet? Like, did this count? Did this count? And I'm saying right now that I argue that this one counts.
Oh, people be fishing.
Downvote?
I voted down. I voted
What?
down. Because
What,
if
you think
we
he has to
told
speak
Christian-
English?
If we told Christian
He has to be English.
that he's not
No.
a Mandalorian, then we're getting that technical.
I was gonna say, if we're saying he said his first words,
No.
the Moff Gideon is for sure Mandalorian.
No.
Well, he's basically Mandalorian in look and fashion.
He appropriated Mandalorian culture to
Yeah.
continue his.
That's
rise
about
to
as
power.
Mandalorian as it gets as a villain. So it's like, put that on the bingo card, people. That was great. I predicted. that.
Christian, I will support that for also getting mine thrown in there too.
Oh, okay. So that's different. I'm sorry. I don't. It's still a really big stretch for me to say that Grogu said his first words. As much as I want to agree with you, Amanda.
I wish we were live right now so I could see what the chat was thinking.
I know.
I know.
We'll need to replicate it somehow.
Well, all I will say is, I think Sounds like we're both voting it down, but it's a good reach. You reached. Keep reaching. Better luck next week. But
I will say I'm glad. I was kind of glad that he didn't speak basic in this episode because it just, in those moments, I don't know, it just was like, this isn't gonna feel right.
yeah, it was
If
like
says something in those moments.
This moment feels
It'll
awkward.
make way more sense like in season 4. Like after some time has passed and we're like, okay, we can adjust to that time span.
I mean, he definitely speaks. Like there's so many moments where people are like Grogu, and he's like, "Bato, bato."
Yeah.
Is it a
Yeah.
hot take if I say I'm fine with him like never speaking in basic? Like
Probably.
I've become so accustomed to him not speaking in basic.
Misa spec.
I'm fine with him not.
Or if you
but-
gave him like a little robot translator,
yeah, one of those like
Yeah.
the tobacco use voice modifier, or just subtitles. Just subtitle his stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amanda, thumbs down.
All right. Sorry, Amanda.
I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
Okay, I've got a hot take here. I believe that this season of Mandalorian, while a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it so much, I mean, look, I also watched the Bad Batch season 2. And not only do I think Bad Batch season 2 is better than the Mandalorian season 3, but I don't think it's close. Bad Batch season 2 was phenomenal. I mean, the writing, the composition, the score, it's masterfully done season of Star Wars that I'm so excited to rank next, starting next week with season 2, chapter whatever, episode 1 of the Bad Batch, because I really think that's the greatest single season of Star Wars I've ever seen. So anyway, we'll find out though. But yeah, so
Whoa.
it's not as good as the Bad Batch season 2, which is not getting anywhere near as much love as Mandalorian right now. So wanted to
Dang,
shout
well, I don't know if I can even adequately rank that hot take yet because we haven't rated it and reviewed it. I have watched it and I will say I enjoyed it, but I just don't think I can. I think it's a hot take, but I'm going to disagree with you.
I haven't seen Bad Batch season 2, so
jury is out.
so my opinion is not valid, and I recognize that. But you really think season 2 of Bad Batch is better than like any of the seasons of The Mandalorian?
Yes.
Wow, Amanda.
That's bold, but I feel
Yeah.
like I can't accurately say because like I want to be able to look at our total cumulative scores
Mhm.
of where, all of these seasons of Mandalorian end up and kind of how that works with Bad Batch too, because Bad Batch was one of our lowest scoring series that we've reviewed
Yeah.
so far.
And I do want to say I think if we didn't have this type of finale for season 3,
Mm-hmm.
I do not think you would be saying this about the Bad Batch season 2. Like, I would think season 3 was the most fun to watch of the Mandalorian
Yeah.
series. Season 3 is the most
Agreed.
fun, most rewatchable, and it's a shame that the finale. I think because we've enjoyed it so much, we put that much more weight on the finale, and when it didn't meet expectations. Like, imagine not seeing all the previous episodes of season 3 and then just skipping to the finale.
Yeah.
And seeing everything that we saw, our minds would have been blown. We're like, what the heck did we all miss, setting up for that? So I think there's a testament to that in The Mandalorian that would make me say I disagree. But again, my opinion doesn't matter because I haven't seen season 2.
It just feels like they got the football all, and for the non-American audience, I'm sorry, but they got the football all the way up to the 1 yard line.
The pigskin.
And they dropped it there. And it's like people say, well, they got it all the way up the field. It's like, yeah, but you didn't score. Like you didn't get it.
I
where-
think they scored.
See, I think that's a hot take. When you say they didn't score.
They
like
didn't
with
score.
The finale, you're like,
this season
they
they
just-
dropped the ball.
they just fumbled it.
They did.
Completely fumbled. I think that's a hot take.
Look, it's still, and that doesn't mean it's a bad football game. That doesn't mean you didn't get your money's worth with your tickets. You didn't see some amazing throws that set up some great stuff for the next game that you're like, wow, there's a lot to work with here. But that's how this feels. It feels like ultimately you lost in crunch time, but you were close. But that fourth quarter, you just didn't know how to put points on the board. And ultimately, you learned for next season. That's how this felt to me. Look, I still really enjoyed it. I don't want to take away from anything that Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Pedro Pascal. I mean, look, it's still a masterful season, the best season of The Mandalorian thus far. And it was a ton of fun. But ultimately, you just don't get a pass, I think, when it's your season finale. People say, well, it's just, the last shot of the game is just one shot. Yeah, but it is the most important shot.
Especially if you're trying to tie the first 2 seasons as well together, not just the 3rd season.
I don't care if you have to stretch out more time into it. It just felt mishandled. And ultimately,
I do kind of wish that they wouldn't box themselves into only 8 episodes. Like, if season 3 needs 10 episodes, then okay, add a couple more, and that's okay if there's 8 in the other ones and 10 in this one.
And I also want to say too, like, just because I think it's like a loss, right? Like leaving football and going into basketball with the playoffs, it's a 7-game series, right? So there's multiple seasons of Mando. Just because something doesn't feel like it was a huge W in the end doesn't mean, oh, I hated it, I'm done, this was trash. No, it's still really good, but left a bad taste. You don't want to leave a bad taste in the viewer's mouth on the last episode of the season, and who knows how many years until we get season 4.
Getting back to the Bad Batch season 2, I can't. I think what you're saying is a hot take. I can't really say I agree or disagree, so I don't know.
It's got to be a disagree.
The jury's out until you see it, so we'll just
leave
it.
Disagree.
We
gotta do the. I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
We need to over this, but we didn't get it in Mando.
I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
All right, and with that, it's time for the last segment of the show. Force Ghost Charlie, bring us in.
This is the way to trivia time.
It is trivia time. Amanda, do you have the question of the week?
No, because I did last week.
Oh, that's
good.
That's good. Week. Well, Christian's pulling up trivia right now for this episode. As he's doing that, let's just go back real quick here and talk about what we're going to be talking about next week. The Bad Batch Season 2. I'm so excited to talk about this. And for the viewers who haven't watched it, be sure to watch along with us because you will be in for such a treat. I mean, these are questions I've had since I was like 8 years old that this season answers.
Yeah, it is a really good season, without spoiling anything. If you go back and listen to our season 1 review, which was one of the first pieces of Star Wars content that we did at Duel of the Ranks, you'll hear that we had a lot of issues with different parts of the storytelling that I think get resolved in this season. One of them specifically, less stun gun action, more kill gun action, which is what I'm talking about. So stakes are a bit higher. And maybe also while Christian's pulling up that question, can we talk about the bingo card situation then? Are we going to announce our winners in next week's episode?
Yes, next week we will announce winner or winners, depending on what we have on the sheets on next week's episode. And I have a question. I've got a trivia question.
Thank goodness.
I'm looking at you on your phone, struggling to find one. I got you.
What is a question?
When Moff Gideon perishes, what were his final words or sounds? Did he A, say no? Did he B, say ah? very melatonin like that. Did he C say Din Djarin? Or did he D say never?
I can't remember which letter was which, but I'm
Don't
gonna
ask me to restate them.
he
Better
said ah,
he
but with
said,
an
Yeah.
angry tone.
I'll get you, Din Djarin. No, you will die. Well, we all wished he said, unlimited power. Well, just like the Mandalorian season 3, we're gonna flop at the end of this episode. So we had good audio starting out. We're losing our lighting, we're losing the mics, and that's just like this season of Mandalorian.
So what's the answer?
Well, it's
Oh, okay, cool. I thought so. So I was right.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
oh, I got a trivia question.
All right.
Sorry, folks, for the delay. The Mandalorian thus far has had 3 season finales, as you know. Which one is the shortest of them all? Is it A, season 3, B, season 1, or C, season 2?
Season 3.
Wait, what happened in the season 1 finale? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the season 3 finale. So A.
You are both correct. Good
Yeah.
job. Good job.
Nice.
Cool. Well, that's this
We
week's
did
episode
it.
of Drinks. We're all going to be back in the studio next week. I am so excited to be home and to just do that episode with y'all. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning into this week's episode and sticking with us and listening to these pre-recordings. But yeah, next week, we're going to be live again. So be sure to be there at 6 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So join us then. This has been Duel the Ranks, and we look forward to catching you next week for the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 1. See you then.